And one of the things about making money that's so important that a lot of people might not realize if they've never not had money, but when I wasn't making money, I couldn't take care of myself, because taking care of yourself is not part of the hierarchy of needs when you don't have any cash. You take care of your children, you take care of what you need to, your job, your work, but yourself, that falls by the wayside. There's no time and there's no money.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer. In the finale of this two-part series with entrepreneur and founder of Zacharin Consulting, Natalia Zacharin, she gets even more practical as she shares how to avoid burnout, price with confidence, and build a business that truly scales. To learn more, let's rejoin the conversation.
So I remember looking at him and he looked like he couldn't even smile. And I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I'm too tired to smile." So we both decided at that point that we have to have non-negotiables and we can't just keep moving forward and be extremely driven. So now, since 2020, it is a non-negotiable for me that I work out several times a week, that I take long walks, that I spend time with, I've always spent time with family. And my cat. So spend time with my pets and my plants.
We are a cat-friendly podcast, and my cat comes in here. And we now have a dog, so we're dog-friendly too.
Yes. Well, my cats always make a cameo.
Of course they do.
But I work out to ensure that I work out, because I know myself. I will say to myself, I just want to get this one thing done. I'm going to skip this workout. I just want to get this one other thing done. I just need to move the needle forward just a little bit more, because I'm not just driven. I've managed to make it a habit now. It's a habit for me to just keep pushing forward and pushing forward. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But I hired a personal trainer. So I have an appointment with her and I have to show up, because that's the only way I'll probably do it. So you have to understand your own psychology. I've had to put barriers and boundaries on myself to make sure that I rest enough, that I eat well, that I exercise, that I take care of myself. And one of the things about making money that's so important that a lot of people might not realize if they've never not had money, but when I wasn't making money, I couldn't take care of myself, because taking care of yourself is not part of the hierarchy of needs when you don't have any cash. You take care of your children, you take care of what you need to, your job, your work, but yourself, that falls by the wayside. There's no time and there's no money. So one thing that having a successful business means to me is to be able to take care of myself.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love all of that. And it's figuring out your own little success formulas, because you are the type of person does well when you can't get back in the boat, right? It's like, yes, we got to swim, and we got to swim fast to shore otherwise, right? And same thing, I got to show up and meet this person to make sure I do my workouts. Those are your structures for success, and they're working for you. And that's a lesson for all of us to find those little structures. And like you said, you look at what's working and you go deep on that, and go big on that. That's another thing. If you see things, if all of us, we see things working in our life, go deep on that. Go forward with what's working and make it work even better. Mm-hmm. Now, so much here, and we've got your business is now rolling. You figure out this kind of like advisory, if you will, piece because of COVID. And so then after this bit with COVID, you're helping people, you're keep growing. When did that then start to change? And it was just you often during that period of time. When did it start to escalate into having team? And you already mentioned that a little bit, but I'd like to know a little bit of that. And then we can talk as well about this advisory piece, where that went to.
Yes. So I realized in 2020 that now I had a lot of clients and I was extremely busy. And I was about to make the same mistake that everybody makes, is to hire when I'm busy. That's not when you hire. You hire when you can afford to. So I looked at my numbers and I saw, my goodness, I can't afford to hire anyone because I'm only at around 300,000 and I should be about closer to 500,000 really to hire another person. So I do go by the formula of about 200, between 200 and 300,000 in gross revenue per employee. And that is still my formula. I still use that formula. So I looked at it and decided I need to increase my pricing. And I did. So at that point, I had to double my pricing. I was completely underpricing myself. I had clients at $75 a month, at $100 a month, at $200 a month. It was ridiculous. So I started to try to increase my pricing on my sales calls. So I decided I'm not going to take anybody for less than $500 a month. And I would get on a sales call. I would do my pitch, and then they'd be quiet. And then I would talk myself out of it. And actually, before they would even argue with me, I would take my price down. And so I'd get off the call. I'd close the deal. I'd get off the call or the Zoom at that time. And then I'd be like mad at myself because I did it again. I undersold again. And now I have more work and I still can't afford to hire someone. So I remember telling my boyfriend, and he said, well, when you get angry enough at yourself, you'll finally sell it for real. So, and I thought that's not really helpful. And that made me actually a little bit more angry. But I finally decided just to tell them what the cost is and shut my mouth and just wait. And that uncomfortable period of them talking it through or asking questions, or sometimes there's complete silence. It's very uncomfortable, but it's very important. And it gives them an opportunity to ask the question or to say something before you start talking yourself out of it. So I just had to start teaching myself to really value what I do. And honestly, anybody listening, bookkeeping is the most foundational and the most important professional service that any business should have, and that every business should have. We really do not value ourselves as an industry. And I really saw that, especially when I get new clients in, I see how they're very underpriced. And the problem when you don't price correctly is you can't hire really good people. That's the formula. Price correctly, hire great people. So after I increased my pricing, I finally hired my first employee. My mistake there, that I've learned a lot since, was she had no experience in QuickBooks Online, only on desktop, and we only used online. So I was teaching her how to do QuickBooks Online the whole time. So I spent a lot of time with her. Looking back, I should have hired someone with a lot more experience that was more expensive, maybe even a manager level, like I had mentioned earlier, rather than now I had more on my plate and I wasn't able to delegate what I needed to. So a lot of it was still learning experience for a long time. And in 2021, what really helped me was in January 2021, I joined a mastermind. That was very helpful. I was the smallest. I decided to join the executive level to bet on myself again. They cost me $50,000. I only made $200,000 in gross revenue that prior year. I was tracking at about $300,000 for 2021. And I just went all in and decided I'm going to be the smallest company in the executive level. And I just left last year as one of the largest. So
Wow.
They taught me about pricing, accountability, holding me accountable. And it really was very helpful. And I think that the success or how quickly everything grew is because I had that mastermind in my back pocket.
Wow. Amazing. And so now you started to increase pricing. That's the big key formula. Get really good at pricing, enables you to hire good talent to scale out with. And then as you started to grow, you're in this mastermind, did the strategy for getting clients or doing the work change? What were some of the key shifts that had to happen to then get you to where you are now in the multi-million-dollar level?
Yes. So a couple of things changed. Early on, I had stuck with LinkedIn outreach. I did not start ads or any marketing for a long time. The mastermind actually taught me that you don't want to start ads until you're at least at 750,000 gross revenue because it's very expensive. So I was still reaching out. I was still networking, reaching out to people. That was still working for me. I then started reaching out to other tax firms and getting referrals. That was really, really helpful. So we built the business in the very early years, mostly on referrals and my own business development and networking. I also realized in 2019 and 2020, and why I rolled out CFO services, fractional CFO services in 2021, almost every single conversation that I had with a prospect ended up with, well, great, well, now you can help me with my bookkeeping, but I still don't understand how my numbers are going to improve my situation. Like, just understanding my numbers, like how do I change my situation? How do I become more profitable? How do I know how much cash in the bank do I need? How do I know when to hire? So those questions, and I think because I was on those sales calls and I did the sales myself, I was starting to see what the market, what the demand was in the market. And I decided in January 2021, I bought a small client list from another member of that mastermind who wanted to get out of his business. And he was doing the fractional CFO services already. So now, basically learning by fire, suddenly in January 2021, I have a small group of clients. It was only $200,000 that I bought off of him in annual revenue. So small group of clients that needed a CFO are now suddenly my clients. And I have to learn, not only continue doing what I'm doing, continuing, like getting more clients, continuing to keep building my own business. Now I have to learn how to do projections and forecasts and budgets. So the learning curve, again, it was extremely overwhelming. I know I spent a lot of nights trying to figure things out. I think I mentioned on other podcasts, I cried a lot. First couple of years, I would just feel like I just want to give up. It was hard. I wasn't only trying to learn how to build a business. I was learning how to do the things in the business at the same time. So it was extremely hard. But what I realized was my knowledge of the numbers is already greater than the business owner. And so anything I do is already going to be more helpful. And just giving them the opportunity to focus in at least once a month and let's look at everything was really, really helpful. So we actually, that fractional CFO and really understanding it, and I read a ton of books on KPIs and metrics and how to read financials. I read a lot of books on it. That was really, really helpful. And of course, everything you learn as a fractional CFO, it helps you for your own business too.
Absolutely.
Double help.
So it's interesting with this is that CFO, advisory, helping people, anybody that wants to do that or understand their business from a financial perspective without great bookkeeping, it's absolutely useless.
Yes.
Because how can you, and I think a lot of people do it because they just don't realize that underlying piece. And that's why bookkeepers are so well positioned for this, is that they understand, not only do they understand it, they have a great knowledge of it. It's like they're walking around in the dark and they know where things are. Whereas anyone else tries to attack that without that deep knowledge would be kind of bowling behind a curtain. Because you don't understand the numbers, you can't have the confidence in the numbers. And so it's a really powerful opportunity for everyone in this industry, which you've really echoed here. And I'm curious about the advisory services. We talk a lot about advisory services and a CFO, like a fractional CFO or a comptroller, or, that's not used so much, comptroller, but is the CFO, like, what does the market understand? Because some people might think, oh, geez, I can't be a CFO, or I'm a bookkeeper, or how do you bridge the gap, or how did you bridge the gap? And what are your thoughts around that? Because I've heard that come up where people are saying, well, geez, I can't do that. Or am I a chief financial officer that I could actually do that work for someone's business? What's the risk, or what's the lack of knowledge that I might have? I'd love to open that up a little bit.
So part of it was I realized, and a lot of us do this, I was already giving away a lot of information and analysis for free. We do this all the time as bookkeepers. I was already telling people, well, this is how your profit ended up. If you tweak this, this, and this, or this is where the expenses went up, then you can really improve your situation. So if you're already giving advice, you're already doing that for free, unless you're charging for it. What I found was I was starting to give advice on a regular basis for free. So I wanted to roll out a true engagement that encompassed that so that I can get paid for that information and for that time. What happened was I really learned a lot by looking at my own financials and then seeing a lot of different clients, because I did all of that work on my own too. Like I did everybody's bookkeeping at first. Then I started rolling out the projections. I'm doing my own bookkeeping. I started seeing patterns. And so if you're not sure if you can do this or not, look at the patterns of what you see in your clients that are successful and your clients that are not successful and what's going on there. And a lot of the what's happening is very habitual, behavioral. And for me, fractional CFO services is a combination of strategy, a looking forward strategy. That's why I love the projections. I love forecasts. It's a crystal ball. It's amazing. You can see if I make this decision or if I keep going in this direction in 6 months, where do I end up? So you have time now to pivot if there's something, if you're trending in the wrong direction, because finance is about trend. The fractional CFO is a combination of strategy, combination of mindset and accountability, and a little bit of therapy. And so when we meet every single month with a client, and this has evolved over time, we're not just talking about where are we now, did we make our numbers, where are we headed, what does that look like, what are our goals, and everything is driven from revenue. How many people do you need? Who is being efficient? We're looking at payroll and labor efficiencies, cost of goods sold, profit, how much cash in the bank they need. Should they pay off their debt? Should they not? Should they get another piece of equipment? So we're looking at all these things. But the biggest thing is holding that business owner who is being pulled in so many different directions, forcing them to focus in on this really important information at least once a month, and forcing them to stay on track. Because what I've noticed as a pattern, when someone isn't doing well, they start doing everything else except for what they need to do. So I find that business owners, if they're not, so we had one business owner who was transitioning as an IT firm from break and fix and purchasing really expensive computer equipment and installing it and not charging enough for it. He wanted to transition out of that completely and just be a managed service provider. That transition is not easy because as a break and fix, you're getting a tremendous amount of cash flow in, but then it all goes back out and cost of goods sold. So you think you have a lot of cash coming in if you're not really paying attention. Whereas if you're looking at the gross profit, you're actually not getting anything because it's not even enough to sustain the operations of the business. So we had to keep on track every single month. Every single month, he'd be like, we need to move these things around on the profit and loss, these GL accounts. We need to switch everything around. And I would meet with him and say, no, everything's fine. These little tweaks will not change the profit. It's not going to change your decision-making. And what you actually need to do is get more clients. So focusing back in and reminding them of we need to stay on track and we're going to keep doing this hard thing because getting clients is a lot harder than looking at and tweaking your P&L. So people avoid the hard. And so part of being a CFO is to make sure we're still on track. We're still going to do this. So how many prospects did you talk to? How many clients did you close? And that was always the conversation. What is the biggest domino that you need to fix right now to topple over a bunch of other dominoes? And that's what we focus on in the CFO services.
Wow. It's very similar to what you hired a personal trainer to help you, let's figure out where we're trying to get to. And then I'm going to hold you accountable to make sure you get there and you get the transformation that you're looking for. And so that's a really powerful position and a very valuable one for the owners. I'm curious with the naming of it, like for our listener, helping, sometimes people they don't know what they don't know, right? This whole area of like, I'm a business owner, doesn't mean a business owner has been educated in business, right? Often, and it's that in this industry and it's in every other industry, they've somehow get into it through whatever direction. Usually a technician turns into a business owner, right? They're good at, changing light bulbs. Next thing you know, they're running an electrical business, right? And so they don't even know that they need these services many cases. And I would love to know if that's the case that you found, and what is the language that works to explain what this is. CFO is kind of I think it's almost a universal wording that people would probably get, but do they get that in small, medium-sized businesses? I'd love to know your take on that.
So I don't think anybody knew what that actually meant, especially when we rolled it out in 2021. But it was part of my script. I do believe that if you're doing your own sales, you should have a script. And I would paste that script on my computer so I could see it and still look at the camera and make sure I'm asking all the questions and I'm staying on track, because it's easy to veer off. It's uncomfortable. Part of the questioning was going to be about their bookkeeping. The rest of the questioning was, so where's your profitability? Where is your profitability at? What percentage or what dollar amount? And you kind of know as the bookkeeper already where it should be. So you can ask questions, how much debt does the business have? What does the profitability look like? How much cash in the bank? Have you paid yourself? Do you know how much to pay yourself? Have you filed taxes? When was the last time you filed taxes? That's a big question. I found there's so many clients that come to us that haven't filed taxes in years because they didn't have the cash. They were afraid. Do you know how much cash you need to run your business? What's your goal? So if you're at 2 million right now, what's your goal for next year? So those are all CFO related questions and they're basically metrics questions. And the business owner doesn't necessarily need to even know the answer, but they need to hear the question, because once they hear the question, they know they don't know that answer, or they know they have trouble. And so the question is what triggers the almost like an emotional response of, oh, wait, I should know that, or it needs to be better. And I would say every business needs a fractional CFO at any level. It makes more sense if you're scaling. If you're not scaling, there's not a lot you can do. There's some things you can do, but it's usually reducing costs. But if you're scaling, you could definitely use a fractional CFO. And most people hire one when it's too late. They should hire it before they need one to stay out of trouble, not to hire one to get out of trouble. So a lot of times the words that people hear, is your profit showing at 300,000, you only have 30,000 in the bank?
Yes.
That's a balance sheet issue. Do you know how much to pay yourself? Are you profitable? Do you want to scale? Do you know who to hire? Are your people being efficient? Their utilization rates. Do you have an exit strategy? That's it. All of those questions start to venture into the fractional CFO. And those are all things that business owners are really worried about. They're worried about their profit. They're worried about having enough cash in the bank. They're worried about not being able to pay themselves enough. They're worried about taxes and how much they have to pay. They're worried about, and the fractional CFO is not a tax strategist, but they still need to understand their cash flow in order to pay taxes, and they still need to prepare for that. And we work with tax strategists hand in hand, because that's a great opportunity to talk about cash flow, because tax strategy requires more cash. So we have several tax strategy firms that we partner with in that regard. But those are some of the things that business owners are worried about. They're worried about cash in the bank, profit, and why does their profit not equal their cash? That's a big one.
Yes. These are great. I love this. I love these questions, because it's like you've done so many sales calls, I would imagine, and you get to know, and it's like you've got this, like, almost, I would imagine, calculator in your head of, okay, I'm asking these questions, and it's like, this person knows a lot or they don't know. And it's like the don't knows are potentially really great clients, because if they know all the answers, they may have all of it figured out, or a lot of it figured out. And if they don't, then these are great opportunities to help them and sell them services that will help them get those answers, because those answers lead to better questions, and better questions lead to better results. So really cool framing of all of this and the value of advisory when you're doing the bookkeeping and moving into that advisory stage. It's like we think in Canada, we're a lot of raw resources here: water, trees, iron ore, all these raw resources. And often as a country, we're just shipping those raw resources off to somebody else who's going to turn them into furniture or turn it into like a car or a microchip. Whereas if you start taking those raw resources and making the value out of them, you get that value. And that's often, I think, what bookkeepers have been doing for decades, if not centuries, is passing off the great work that they do to somebody else that's then charging, multiples on the good work that they've done and doing those advisory service or tax planning. Whereas there's a big piece that our industry can do to help business owners and be rewarded greatly, like you are, for doing it.
It is very rewarding to watch a business that has been struggling. First of all, it's a light bulb moment for them. These are smart people. They know their craft. They know what they're doing. They've done really, really well, but they just don't understand the numbers. We had one logistics company. This was a great example. 3 brothers that had a business. They hired a coach. We were actually their bookkeeper. They hired a coach, and the coach said, you should close your business down. I can't help you. And so he reached out to me. They didn't even know we did fractional CFO services. He reached out to me, and I said, we actually provide this service. No, you don't have to close your business down. Everything is fixable. Let's take a look. They were at a negative $800,000 in profit. And that's why the other coach said to close it down. And we started working with them. And within 6 months, their delta increased by $1 million. They were $200,000 profitable in 6 months after working with us. A lot of it was just understanding what was going on. First of all, they had no idea where their cash was going, and they were taking out so much in distribution. They were buying real estate. They did not realize when we told them they took out, it was $400,000 they took out of the business. They were like, no, we didn't. Yeah, you did. It's right here. Do you remember this and this and this? Oh, and like light bulb. So business owners they're busy, they're go, go, go. This is not their forte. And to be able to help them in this capacity is extremely rewarding. And that business ended up selling to someone else once it was improved. As soon as it was improved, it was a sellable asset, which is an amazing feeling.
That's so magical. I love that. And that's another really key piece. Like, if people have any dream, which many business owners do, of exiting the value they've built over the years they've been in it, exiting is an opportunity to cash in on that value that they've built. If they don't have great financials and actually have a business that someone wants to buy, they've got nothing. It's just a dream. And so part of that opportunity is to be able to show people where they are at now and knowing. That's a great question. Do you have an exit plan? If they say yes and they haven't done all this other work, it's like, that's a pipe dream. You can turn those pipe dreams into a real dream and actually make it a reality with the right planning and the right moves, and no better than this industry to help them do it, like you are.
Can I say something? I wanted to mention something. There's a lot of fear about now anybody with a computer anywhere in the world says they're a bookkeeper.
Yes.
And AI. So we're leaning out from that, leaning away from it, meaning I'm hiring very highly skilled people. We don't outsource. We use AI, and Intuit uses a lot of AI, because what we do just makes it faster, but it still have to have a human to understand the nuances and to really do it correctly. And right now, AI is pretty terrible in bookkeeping, let's be honest, but it is coming. And so I don't want people to feel afraid and have to even lower their pricing because they feel pressure. It's the opposite. People need us even more. And we're not the same as the companies that like really have inexpensive pricing and use a ton of AI and use a lot of overseas people. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we don't do that. And I don't feel that pressure at all because we're not competing towards the bottom. We're staying towards the top. And everything that we've done, we've changed over time. So I noticed as we get new clients that their financials are a mess very, very often. And that's because no one is overseeing that process. So we take that extra step. Yes, it's more expensive. Yes, I have several people that make 6 figures in salary. And my average bookkeeper makes a lot more than bookkeepers. And we pay them really, really well. They're on salary. They get 100% coverage on benefits. We really want to attract the best talent. And we take that extra time to have a controller. We have an in-house controller that reviews everything, even if the client's really tiny, not paying us enough or a lot. So I'm not really worried about that. Like, maybe I need to pivot a little bit. Maybe we'll have less people and be able to do more, have more clients later. But don't feel the pressure of constantly lowering your pricing. That's going in the wrong direction. You need to actually be even better.
I think so. That's what AI helps you do, is be better at it, do a lot of the heavy lifting on things that it would take a lot of time to do. But the other piece of it that I think is, it's the curse of knowledge. Because you can do it, you think others want to do it and could be good at it. It's not necessarily knowing knowing everything. It's like, sometimes it's like knowing where to look is the value. And we talk about, there's a great analogy or story metaphor of the riverboat mechanic who goes and taps on the pipes and says, look, here's the dollar part, and that'll be $900. And it's like, yeah, but it only costs you $1 to fix it. It's like, yeah, but knowing where to tap on these pipes is the $900 or $899 part of the bill. And so I use AI a ton. I do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. I tell people about it, that I'm doing it, and they could do it too, because I'm a human and it's a computer and any human can do it. They have no desire, no interest. They don't even want to hear about it. And so I think that's the other piece that bookkeepers need to realize, is that their brain, the way they see the world, the understanding of the numbers and the impact those numbers have is really, really valuable. And you're only going to be the one driving the AI likely as a tool, another tool to help you do the things you need to do to help these business owners go do what they do. Maybe it's, like you had some clients that are doing real estate stuff, and you have some clients that are doing healthcare or chemistry or whatever. That's their passion. They don't want to be doiling away and figuring out the finances. So I think that's a piece that drives many people in many industries, is this fear that stems from what you know and you think others know it or want to actually know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's all this information out there for, on nutrition and diet and exercise, and people still hire personal trainers.
That's
They're
right.
still going to hire us.
Transformation that people are going to keep hiring other people, other humans to do. And it will be pivots. They're going to be pivots all over the place. However, those pivots just have to be aware of them and take advantage of the opportunity, which you have been, and you're doing a great job of it. What a remarkable story you have. And we've been speaking for a while here, and I want to maybe just open it up to see if there's any other direction that I maybe not have thought of, or I'm sure we could go on for a couple more hours, but I'll just open it up to you in terms of, things that you might want to tell other bookkeepers that at whatever stage they're at, on how they might think differently or do differently in their business.
I would say a couple of things. You don't need an amazing website or a logo to get business. I did not have one until last year. It's not a website and not a logo. Wow. So I had like a ClickFunnels website that I never used because I put it together in 2 minutes. So I just finally, I'm brand new on Google because of that. You do not need to, I would say, hire people. If you're going to be hiring, hire better than you. Don't be afraid. Don't have that ego that no one can do this the way I do it. People can do it. There's several different ways to do things. It doesn't have to be your way. I do empower people, and I try to, because I tend to not do it naturally, but I try to think it through and empower people to do it their way, as long as the end result is correct. And we work with urgency. Urgency is really important in our business. Someone comes to us, they want to know things are getting done, and especially if they haven't had things done in years. So we hire the best that we can possibly hire, and we pay them really, really well. Everyone that works here has made more money than they've ever made before, and I'm very proud of that. But I'll do it intentionally. First of all, I want them to be bought in, and I want them to be excited, and I want them to grow with us. And second is, if they're not aligned with us in some way, or they don't have the experience that we thought they did, or something isn't working out, it makes it really easy for me to transition them out because they're expensive. But expensive people doesn't mean that it hurts your bottom line. It actually improves your bottom line. So the goal is to hire people better than yourself. And that's going to be my continued goal, is I keep transitioning out into more branding. I've transitioned out of sales at this point. That's the other thing I'd say to a business owner or to a bookkeeper. If you are growing and scaling, you're going to be doing all the things. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be one hire is going to take all those things off your plate. It's probably going to be several hires. So don't worry, it's going to happen. It takes years to get out of some of the things that you do in your business. It takes years to start transitioning out. It took me 4 years to get out of payroll, running payroll for clients. I went through 4 people, and it kept not working out, and it kept falling back on me. I'd be on vacation, walking on the beach, writing someone's payroll on my phone because it kept coming back to me. Don't give up. Just keep looking for the best people.
Yeah, that payroll one's a tight one, because if the people don't get paid, somebody's going to hear about it.
Yes. Yeah. So we have a payroll specialist now.
Nice.
With decades of payroll-only experience, not a bookkeeper.
Yeah,
So,
amazing.
Yeah. Again, leaning away from everybody else is leaning in, make it less expensive, make it less expensive. We're actually leaning away from that.
Right. Make it more expensive, do a better job. Yeah, more value, drive more value. Some amazing stuff here, just absolutely remarkable. What a story for any business owner, any person, but, to be a single mother and to go through this and make this transition and build this amazing business, it is just warms my heart. And as we always say, and you're doing it and making such a big difference for other businesses that, might have not been successful or not made as much money. And that's the beauty of this industry. That really is. You're doing good work for you, and it's making a difference for others. So fantastic. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been, I think I mentioned, I feel a little starstruck because I listen to your podcast a lot, especially in the beginning. It was one of my almost daily things. I learned a lot. I still listen to it. You have a great guests on. I've learned a lot. And so to be here now, I'm a little starstruck, to be honest, and I'm very grateful.
Oh, wow. Well, it's always great to hear that we're doing things that make a difference. It's always nice to know, but to thank you so much for that. And if there's, if people wanted to learn more about you or get in touch with you, what's the best way for people to do that?
So we are on every social media outlet at this point. And I did wait to do that until we were at several million to really get everything rolling. But we are on LinkedIn. I think my URL there is Grow Your Bottom Line. Same with Instagram, it's Grow Your Bottom Line. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook, Zacharin Consulting, and then it's ZacharinConsulting.com is our website. We do have even free resources there. People are welcome to grab a few of those. I created some assets for us. I'm happy they're out there to share.
Yes.
And if you're in a business or you're building a business or you're running a business, don't give up. Just keep going.
Beautiful. I love that. And it sounds like LinkedIn is a great place to get connected with you as well, because that's where you got your first client, and you're probably active on LinkedIn as well. So
very active on LinkedIn. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, this has been great. We'll have some of those links in the show notes for our listener. And again, I just want to thank you for your generosity being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. What a great discussion with Natalia. Across this 2-part series, 2 things are clear. Success doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from taking action and continually leveling up. Thanks again, Natalia, for the insight. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. For resources and links, visit thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.